How's everybody doing today?
And we'd like to thank you for joining us once again.
Absolutely. It's
Friday
another Friday.
afternoon. It is. And we would certainly like to wish each of you a great weekend if we fail to do that, but we are glad that you're with us and that you're joining us.
Absolutely. And Mike, today is running things a little bit differently. So not only are we streaming on our US Facebook page, but we're streaming on our UK Facebook page and on our YouTube page.
Wow.
So definitely several different options to watch today.
Okay.
We're glad that you can join us. And in the comments, let us know where you're watching from. And then make sure to give the video a like and a share. Share us with your friends, and then let everyone know that we're here to help educate and answer questions. Specifically today, which is about preparing your horse for winter.
Absolutely. In fact, there are some things that we can do in advance of winter getting here, and then there are certain things that we need to do while we're right in the middle of winter itself. When it comes to taking care of our horses and maintaining our horses, right?
Absolutely. Well, we have people from, let's see, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Ontario, several different, Texas, Florida. So definitely a ton of stuff. Jamie says Canada where it's cold.
Already.
So, absolutely. Okay. I think we're actually expecting a little bit of cooler weather this weekend, are we not?
We are this weekend.
We're getting down into the 40s.
At night.
So that's not too bad, but that's one of the most important things. We know a lot of people probably aren't exactly winter minded, at least down here in the south of United States. But of course, you up north, you probably are getting ready for that. But one of the big things that we always talk about is preparing that horse for the winter. It starts early. It starts now,
right?
And it's something that horse owners need to be ready for and prepared for,
right? And that'll just help keep your horse healthy, and then when spring gets here, hopefully that horse is going to be at the point where it can compete. You can trail ride. You can do whatever you need to do at that point in time.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, just a few housekeeping things before, of course, we get started. Again, we are watching for multiple platforms, and we're pretty laid back when it comes to comments and so on. So please feel free to drop those comments in anytime. Of course, we'll be live and we're doing our presentation, so we may not answer it right at first, but during our little trivia sessions, I usually look back at some of those comments and ask Mike for those answers. And if we don't get to it, it may be that we didn't see it, and it may be that that's a question that we're going to answer a little bit later on. Of course, we don't want to jump ahead, and we want to make sure hit different points. And so, there may be a chance that we're going to answer your question just a little bit later. So be patient with us, and we're going to do our best to answer all your questions. Sure. And if we don't, you can always contact us here on Facebook. You can always email us at cservice@lifedatalabs.com, or you can even message us through our website. So all great options there. We do have giveaways today. And so we've got, of course, our live giveaways, which we'll be giving out to those watching live right now through our trivia questions. You'll have basically 2 minutes to answer that question, and we will randomly select one of the people who got it correct.
Right, and I have selected 3 very easy questions.
Oh, yeah.
For you to answer.
And usually Mike answers them before.
And we try to provide the answer to you in advance of asking the question as well. So yeah, we make it easy if we can.
And on top of that, we have our grand prize giveaway. So you can actually enter in that grand prize giveaway at any time. The link is scrolling there at the bottom. And so what we're going to do this time, it's actually going to take you to a landing page on our website. And on that landing page, you're going to be able to enter into, there's a link to enter into the contest. And there's also a link to our next live event, which is going to be November 5th.
That's correct.
And we're going to be talking about, what, Mike?
Environmental factors that work on the hoof.
Environmental factors that affect the hoof.
Right.
That event on Facebook is now live, so you can go ahead and register for that. If you decide you want to watch it on YouTube, you can jump over to YouTube, and you can actually set yourself a reminder through YouTube to remind you when that comes up. That's going to be November 5th at 2 o'clock Central Time. Right. So our usual time and meeting place. And as far as the giveaways go, unfortunately, due to international giveaway laws, we actually can only have those with United States shipping addresses to participate. So of course we always apologize for that. We wish we could open that up to everyone, but unfortunately with customs and different things, it's just really, really difficult to be able to do that.
And you might want to point out
Yeah.
what we're giving away.
All right, we can
as
do
far
that.
as
So this right over
question
here,
part.
right on my left-hand side here, this is, or I guess right in front of me, this is our live giveaway. This is our package, right? So we're going to give away 3 of these. That's going to come with the Forage finish and the hoof clay, which we're going to talk pretty in depth with this presentation. Sure. We've got our hat, our yellow T-shirt, and then of course the breeder's formula. And then our grand prize, let's talk about that just a little bit later.
Okay.
We'll
hold off on that.
I think it's one of our bigger prizes of the year. So, definitely excited about that. And then one last thing, me and you, we've got some upcoming. We talk about we're live right now, but we are actually going to be live at an expo pretty soon.
That's right. In fact, this will take place West Springfield, Massachusetts. The event is Equine Affair, which is a horse expo that's been going on for many years. Its sister event is held in Columbus, Ohio during the month of April as well. But we'll be in West Springfield, Mass. This will be November the 11th through the 14th. That'll be a Thursday through Sunday. And there'll be several clinicians that will be there. There will be all types of educational opportunities for you to participate in as well. And we hope that you will come by to the trade show area, visit with us at booth 523 and 524.
Absolutely.
And if you watch us on Facebook Live and you come by and you let us know that, we'll have a gift for you.
Absolutely.
At that point.
Come and find us. Let us know you watch. Tell us how awesome we are. And we'll get a T-shirt for you.
Right. And we're also going to do daily giveaways there as well.
Absolutely. We're going to go live from the event every morning, internet willing. You never know when you get to these expos. But we're planning on going live every morning to talk about the expo and also to announce the winners and, of course, that daily giveaway. And then, like all our expos, we have our grand prize giveaway, which is a nice big basket of different products.
Absolutely.
So definitely come by and see us because it's going to be a great day. And like I said, we're going to have a giveaway every day. So even if you stop by on Friday, come back again Saturday and Sunday because we'll have some more for you.
And we'll have all of our product on display
with taste samples.
With taste samples to give away as well. So if you have a question, feel free to drop by.
Absolutely.
We'd love to see you face to face.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, that's Equine Affair in Massachusetts.
Right.
And that is going to be coming up here in November.
The 11th through the 14th.
11th through the 14th. All right, Mike. Well, we've got a few things here. Carol says she'll see us at Equine Affair, so that is awesome. And then Julie says that after the last event that she bought the hoof clay for her white line disease, and it's been awesome.
Good.
So we are really happy to hear that, and thank you so much for commenting and letting us know. And again, if you have any questions as you're treating that white line disease or running anything, always feel free to message us. We'll be happy to help. Okay, Mike, well, are you about ready?
I'm about ready, Corbin. I sure am. In fact, we're going to spend a few minutes talking about winter management. And of course, there's many areas, many directions that we could go with this particular discussion here. And so I have picked out a few. And more than likely, I probably won't be able to cover everything that I've actually got outlined for us to cover when it's all said and done. And so we're going to keep this very informal. And as I go through, if you have a question, well, please submit that. And at the appropriate time, we will try to answer the question. So when we talk about winter management, winter can be very harsh on our horses, number one. And I think one of the things that we need to keep in mind is that each horse is an individual in itself. In other words, there's really no precise feeding program that covers every horse that's out there.
Absolutely.
It's an individual thing. And when we talk about some things that we need to do to help, if you want to call it, winterize our horse, then it's an individual thing there as well. And I think one of the most important things that we need to take a look at in for each of our horses, and that is body condition score.
Absolutely.
And body condition score is a method of us describing how nutritionally sound our horse is, in other words, or how unsound the horse may be, both ways, okay? And when we talk about body condition score, this is going to range anywhere from 1 up to 9, okay? And so let me give you an example of that. If Will would pull up slide number 1 for us, okay? We have 2 examples here. The white horse on the left, we would classify it as about a body condition score 3. And then the other horse, the dark horse, would fall into about the 9 category. So we have 2 extremes here. And our goal is to be somewhere around a body condition score of a 5 or 6. And Will, if you'll pull up the next slide, we should have a horse that's going to depict about a body condition score of a 5 plus, maybe 6, something along that line. And that's what we're shooting for.
Absolutely.
This is a good, healthy weight there. The horse is physically fit. The horse can compete. It can do whatever we want the horse to do. If you'll back up to that first slide, Will, if you can do that for me. That horse on the right, the dark horse, is extremely overweight. And that's working against the health of the horse.
Absolutely.
It's just like us as humans. If we're overweight, then we're subject to all type of problems. The horse is the same way. Metabolic issues, number 1. Number 2, laminitis in founder. And then, you know, that horse is, when we talk about metabolic, the horse could have a sugar problem, insulin resistant. We could have a problem with Cushing's. The horse having to carry this extra weight that works on the hooves of the horse, number 1, which a lot of times is going to cause cracking and chipping, and then that just sets us up for all other types of issues to take place within the hoof capsule itself. And of course, carrying this excess weight works on the joint of the horse.
Absolutely.
Okay? And at some point in time, we're going to have excessive wear, excessive tear, and then that at some point turns into an arthritic problem.
Absolutely.
And then we've had to deal with that issue as well. Now, the white horse is a horse that's going to suffer during the winter months. Okay?
Absolutely.
This horse has very limited condition. We can also call it finish. We can also just simply call it fat cover if we want to that as well. And in the way that a horse is going to stay warm during the winter months is that up until about December the 22nd, that horse is going to grow, it's going to develop its winter coat. All right? So one of the means of that horse is staying warm is the length of the hair coat, the winter coat itself, and the amount of condition, the amount of fat that's on the body of the horse itself. Those serves as insulation itself. And then we're going to talk about some other things that we can do to help this white horse to improve and to maintain the needed temperature, body temperature, okay? All right? So we're going to feed these horses totally different. They're individuals in itself. That dark horse that we're looking at doesn't need calories, but it needs nutrients. We need to ensure that the daily nutrient requirement of that horse is being met. And we're going to provide that dark horse with the basic diet of the horse as well.
Absolutely.
And that's always been grass, it's always been forage, or a combination of forage and hay. And then we're going to incorporate a forage balancer into the diet of that dark horse. And one of the products that we offer here at Life Data Labs, Corbin, is the one that we have here in the middle. And it's referred to, or we call that barn bag. And basically, it's simply a complete vitamin mineral supplement, and it's going to complement, it's going to ensure that we're feeding or providing that dark horse with what it needs daily nutritionally.
Absolutely.
And we're going to ensure that that horse has plenty of fresh water along with some salt.
Absolutely.
And that becomes the diet of that horse.
Absolutely.
Now, if we go back to the white horse, we can use the same feeding program. We can still use barn bag. We can still provide that horse with whatever forage or hay that horse can consume safely, but that horse needs calories or energy, okay? And one of the safest grains that we can feed any horse today is simply whole oats. And that's going to provide the calories and the energy that that horse is going to need. And if we have an extremely hard keeper, then we can take it another step forward beyond that, and we can add some form of oil to the diet. And oil is strictly calorie rich in itself, okay? And so that's going to give that horse another boost as well. So in preparing these two different horses here, that white horse, if we could start well in advance, way back late summer, trying to increase the body condition score by adding the calories at that point in time, then that horse would be in a better situation to go through winter.
Absolutely.
So in other words, what we're doing, we're trying to get enough condition on the horse so it has enough insulation so that it's not going to suffer during the extreme cold weather itself.
And a lot of times, can't we assume we're going to see that horse, lose some weight during those colder months as well, right?
That's right.
So if it is at a 1, the last thing you want is for it to go backwards.
That's right. We don't want the horse to back up. So on those hard keepers, if we can prepare well in advance of winter and at least increase their body condition score at least by 1, if not 2, before we hit winter, then the horse is much better off at that point in time.
Now, Mike, I might be jumping ahead.
Okay.
But just to ask real quick,
Sure.
while it's on my mind. So we talked about adding calories.
Right.
Why would we not want to add those complete feeds that have the nutrients and the feed tied together?
Well, that's a very good question, and the reason is this, and you actually answered the question itself, because the nutrients and the calories are tied together and we can't separate those. Say, for instance, the white horse, the thin horse there. To do that, we would actually need to feed more than what's recommended on the bag to supply that horse with the additional calories. And when we do that, we are supplying the additional calories, but we're over supplementing the horse from a nutrient standpoint when we do that. If you take the overweight horse, the dark horse that we took a look at, if we do the same thing, in other words, we would want to cut what's recommended to be fed on a daily basis. And yes, we do reduce the amount of calories, but we've also reduced the amount of nutrition or nutrients that the horse needs daily. And so we're not meeting the daily nutrient requirement of that horse.
Absolutely.
And at some point, one of the first things that's going to suffer and where it's going to show up is going to be the foot of the horse itself.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
And one other point while we're talking about this as well, it is a great time during the winter months if we have these overweight horses. That is, if we have a horse that has a body condition score of anywhere from 7 to 9, it's a prime opportunity to try to pull off some of the excess weight before spring gets here and those horses are back out on that green, lush, sugar-filled forage.
Absolutely.
Okay? Prime time.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Okay.
Mr. Will, go ahead and pull up slide 3. And I've already mentioned this here. And the point is this, that the basic diet of the horse has always been grass, it's always been hay. And then from that, we can add a forage balancer to make sure the daily nutrient requirement is being met at that point in time. Okay? Uh,
Looks like we do have a question over from the UK.
okay.
Pull that up for me, Will. How many milligrams of copper does the barn bag contain? Any iron?
No added iron to the barn bag. As far as the copper itself, let me see what we got here on the bag. This is not going to tell us precisely, but it's 420 parts per million. We'll get back with you and give you the exact amount of copper that's in barn bag itself. Okay. And of course, during the winter months, a horse, one of the first things it's going to do is, as far as the calories or the energy that's being provided to the horse, it's going to use that to maintain body warmth or body temperature. Now, you might ask, is there anything in specific that we can feed the horse that's going to help the horse maintain its core body temperature? And the answer to that question is yes, there is. And we go back to the basic diet once again, and one of the things that we can add to the diet of the horse to aid the horse in maintaining body temperature is forage. It's hay. And that hay, through fermentation, is being digested in the hindgut or in the cecum itself, and through this process it creates heat, and this heat will help maintain the core body temperature of the horse itself. And so I think we've already mentioned what does a horse have to stay warm? It was the hair coat, it was the amount of condition, and then by feeding some type of forage or hay, then this is going to help maintain the needed temperature that that horse needs during those cold periods as well. I think we're ready for question number 1.
All right, you're going to do a live giveaway question.
Yeah, we're going to do a live giveaway question. We are. And this one is very simple here.
Okay. So this is our very first live question. It is U.S. only. So again, we apologize for anyone international watching. We just, again, due to different customs and stuff, those giveaway laws, we cannot bring that out to everybody internationally. So this is for U.S. only. Not the first person. We're going to give you guys 2 minutes to answer. And we're going to look at those questions that were answered correctly, and one of you will randomly be selected to win our prize pack. And we're going to be doing 3 of these, so this is the first of 3. So if you don't win this one, no worries, we got 2 more. But that'll be the farrier's finish, the hoof clay, the shirt, the hat, and a breeder's formula. So the first question is, what do you feed a horse to help maintain core body temperatures?
What do you feed? What do you provide?
Again, it's what do you feed a horse to help maintain core body temperature? So you guys have 2 minutes to answer that. And in the meantime, I guess we have a few questions to ask you, Mike.
Sure. Okay. Go right ahead, Corbin.
What about our senior horses? How do we feed them any differently? Is that something that we're going to talk on a little bit later?
Well, we're going to feed the senior horse essentially as an individual, as we tried to point out at the get-go or at the beginning. Of course, there are many factors involved with a senior horse that will determine what we feed the horse, and the first thing is body condition score. So if we have a thin senior horse, then we've got to look at adding calories or energy to the diet in preparing that horse for the winter months itself. Another thing that we have to look at in the senior horse as well is the dental.
That was my next question.
Okay.
What about if they don't have much teeth?
That's right. Then we've got to provide that horse with something that horse can consume, number one. And that might be some form of a chopped hay. It may be some form of a mash. It may be that we soak what we're feeding in water to help soften, to allow the horse to consume that. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then let's do one more, and then we will announce the winner. Julie would like to know, does barn bag add selenium?
Barn bag has a minimal amount of selenium in it, yes.
Okay.
But it's minimal.
All right. Yeah, it's just that they are short in selenium where they live. So, okay. It looks like
What you'll need to do is you'll need to take a look at her additional feed stuff that she's providing the horse, make a determination of how much selenium are in each of those, whether that's the hay, whether that's the forage, whether that's whatever she's feeding, and then do a total of that. And then we want to stay somewhere in the neighborhood of about no more than 5 milligrams per day when it comes to selenium.
Absolutely.
For a 1,000-pound horse.
We definitely don't want to
overly
do the selenium.
In fact, that can create some major hoof issues when we do
that. Okay, so I believe we've got a winner. And again, the question was, what do you feed a horse to help maintain core body temperature? And as you mentioned earlier, it is forage, hay, roughage.
Right.
And I believe
through this fermentation process in the hindgut, this helps to create heat.
Absolutely. And I believe we have a winner.
The winner is Chelsea Bickford.
Chelsea Bickford. Congratulations, Chelsea. You can email us at cservice@lifedatalabs.com. Again, that is cservice@lifedatalabs.com. And we will need your t-shirt size so we can make sure we send you the right size t-shirt and your shipping address. And that's all we need. And I guess it is a good point in time to say, when we do these contests, of course, you have different people on Facebook who try to pose as companies and, pretends to do giveaways and so on. We will never ask for a credit card. We will never send you a friend request to do that. So, again, all we're going to need is your shipping address and your t-shirt size. And you can just email cservice@lifedatalabs.com. In the subject line, you can put live giveaway winner, and we'll make sure that gets to you.
Right.
So
congratulations to Chelsea.
Well, Mike, I know as we get in here, we of course, have talked about the feed. How much water do we need to look at with these horses?
That's something that we often overlook too for our horses during the winter months. But water is highly important. And typically the average horse is going to consume anywhere from 10 to 12 gallons of water on a daily basis. And we want to make sure that our horses are actually consuming that during the winter months as well, because if they're not, then there are certain health issues that can come about, such as colic, impaction, you name it, dehydration as well if the horse is competing, okay? And the one thing that we need to keep in mind, and we don't think about this a lot of times, is that water consumption is directly tied to feed consumption as well. So if a horse is not consuming the needed water daily, more than likely it's not going to consume the needed feed daily as well. And you might ask, well, what's important about that? That comes into play especially if we have a hard keeper. And that hard keeper needs the feed, it needs the calories to maintain that body condition score number 1 and to produce the heat number 2 to keep itself warm as well. So keep that in mind, okay?
Absolutely.
Water consumption is directly tied to feed consumption. They go hand in hand, okay? And once again, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 12 gallons on a daily basis.
Okay. Well, is there a situation that may form where we need to encourage that horse to drink, or it may not want to drink?
We do.
How do we go about that?
And there are several things that we can do to encourage the horse to drink, number one. The first thing that we need to keep in mind is a horse does not like extremely cold water, number one. So if we can keep that water maintained at somewhere in the neighborhood of, say, 40 to 45 degrees Fahrenheit, that's more appealing to the horse as far as consumption of water in itself. So that's one of the things that we can do. And I know that we have a bunch of different companies that make different automatic waters and so forth that's going to keep the water from freezing and maintain the temperature that we want. But if we have, say, like a tank water that's outside or whatever, naturally it's going to want to freeze, and there's different heating elements that we can drop into those to maintain that particular temperature and also to keep that water from freezing at that point in time. Of course, another thing that we can do too is we can increase our salt intake. And basically just plain old white salt works extremely well for the horse during the winter months. If we have a salt block out there, it's cold, it's hard, that horse may not be that enthusiastic about licking and trying to consume salt over the block itself. So just plain white salt in a protected area out of the elements works great as well. Of course, we want to make sure that we keep our waters clean. We want to make sure that it's kept fresh on a daily basis as well. And if we do have the tank waters with the heaters in it, let's make sure that our electrical cords they're not frayed, they're not worn or anything. That could actually create electrical shock to the horse as well. Okay.
Absolutely. Just a real quick question. How are we going to know that horse is drinking enough? Maybe especially for these horse owners who maybe board their horses and so on.
Well, one of the things that we can do, of course, a lot of these horses that are being boarded and that are in stalls, a lot of times the water is actually provided in a bucket itself. So we can kind of monitor how many times the horse consumes that particular bucket of water and compute how many gallons on a daily basis the horse is consuming. Of course, another thing that we can keep a watch on too is the amount of feed that the horse is consuming as well. And if we don't feel like that's an appropriate amount, then the horse may not be consuming the amount of water that it needs. So there's a couple of ways.
And I think this individual says they have automatic waterers.
Right.
And so is there a way to just to kind
of some of the automatic waters are pretty high tech, and they'll monitor the amount of water that's being consumed, and especially if that water is only for one horse itself. Then yes, yeah.
All right. All right. Let's see. I don't want to move away from water. Are we finished?
We're pretty much through with that.
Okay. I know we've talked, of course, about this comes from a question here on Facebook, but we've talked about the water, we've talked about the older horse and the overweight horse and the skinny horse. What about for our foals?
Okay, very, very good point as well. In fact, our foals are going to rely upon their mother, number one, especially if they haven't been weaned at that point in time. So it's very important that the mare is fed properly in order for the mare to produce sufficient milk that the horse, that the foal's going to need at that point in time as well. Also keep in mind too that the smaller the animal is, as far as body mass, the more heat that's lost. So that foal is going to reach a lower critical temperature much quicker than the mare is because she's much larger. So that's another factor that we need to keep in mind as well during the winter months.
Absolutely.
So our foals, our weanlings, temperature is more critical than with the mama mare then. So yeah.
And we actually also have a barn bag designed just for those
horses. That's right. And when we're talking about feeding the broodmare, we have a version of barn bag called Broodmare and Growing. And it's specifically for the broodmare to be fed. Basically, I'd want to start the broodmare at breeding season or whatever. Absolutely. And keep the broodmare on this. And then as soon as the foal gets big enough to start eating, we'll provide this supplement to the baby as well at that point in time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, Mike. Well, we've talked about body condition. What about hoof care?
Very important. Okay. And the key word to hoof care is prevention. If we can prevent a problem, then we're going to be money ahead, if you want to call it that.
Absolutely.
All right? Because if we have a problem, then it's going to get into our pocketbook most of the time in having to treat the problem or whatever. So when we talk about winter management and getting our horse prepped for the winter months, then our goal is to get the best quality foot genetically possible underneath the horse before we get into winter.
Mm-hmm.
We want the most quality at that point in time, because winter is going to take a toll on that hoof capsule.
Absolutely.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And if a horse goes into winter with a compromised hoof capsule to begin with, if we got wall separation, if we got chips, if we got cracks, then that just sets us up for additional money to be spent at some point during those winter months as well.
Absolutely.
And of course, one of the problems when we talk about the foot of the horse that winter is going to bring on a lot of times, and Will, if you'll bring up slide number 4 for us. This is a very nasty case of a subsolar abscess here. In other words, bacteria and fungi entered that hoof capsule. It set up shop, it went to work at eating away at everything underneath the sole of that foot, as you can see here. And of course, and that's how an abscess starts, is we've got to have some form or some type of an insult, whether that's a crack, whether that's a chip, whether that's wall separation, whether that's an old nail hole where bacteria gets in.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows bacteria to take a hold, to grow. And the bacteria that we're talking about thrives in the absence of oxygen, anaerobic bacteria. And once that happens, that allows the fungi to come in and partner up or whatever and take a toll. Of course, with an abscess, we can have a horse that's perfect today. In the morning when we check on the horse could be dead lame. That's how quick an abscess can take place, right? And of course, in treating an abscess, that's something that's going to involve the farrier, it's going to involve the vet, and it's certainly going to involve the horse owner on a daily basis, especially, okay? And of course, we have a couple of products that we can use that come into play when it comes to an abscess itself. Of course, with an abscess, I think the goal is to relieve the pressure, and either our vet will do that, or either our farrier will do that, or if that abscess is in a certain place within the capsule itself, we may have to do some soaking to help soften, to help promote the rupture of the abscess itself. And then once that takes place, then we can actually use some topicals that we have. One of those will come in a liquid form called Farrier's Finish. It's a very safe, a very mild antimicrobial, a little tea tree oil, some tamed iodine is what we're going to find in the product itself. So this could be used actually during the process, okay? And then after the abscess has completely quit draining.
100%, no draining.
Right, and let me stress that again, completely quit draining. Then you can actually use this product here, and it's called our Life Data Hoof Clay. Putty-like product, very tacky, very sticky, and then this can be packed into that exit wound itself of the abscess, okay?
And let me just go in here real quick. If you are currently fighting an abscess or your horse is prone to it, we actually have we did a live event on that a few months ago on abscesses, and you can go and find that on our YouTube and on our Facebook under the videos. To even, we get a little more information on these products and so on. I'm sorry to break in on you there.
That's all right.
I popped in and
sure.
Just wanted to say it.
Sure. Yep. Okay. And of course, both of these products here, and especially the Finish, has an additional side to it. And of course, during the winter months, we're dealing with excess moisture in a lot of the areas of the U.S. and different parts of the world. And that is a contributing factor to poor hoof quality. It allows the bacteria to enter at some point in time, especially if we're going from wet to dry and wet to dry. When we do that, we're going to have some expansion and contraction of that hoof capsule, and that creates some fissures there, whatever, and that's just an entry point at that point in time. So this particular product here can be used on the entire foot of the horse, the entire sole, the entire hoof wall. Under halfway normal conditions, let's use it at least 1 to 2 times a week. If we have some extreme conditions, well, we would increase the frequency of that as well. And both products can be used together. We would use the clay first in those specific problem areas that we're dealing with, and then we would finish off the entire foot with the finish at that point in time.
Absolutely.
Okay? Another thing that we have to deal with during the winter months that's going to affect the foot, the hoof. During the winter months, we have extreme cold temperatures. That freezes the ground. Frozen ground can be just as hard as concrete itself. So if the horse is out there on this frozen ground, and especially if we're trying to ride, we need to be very careful in a situation like that. But the constant concussion of these hoofs hitting this frozen ground can create some soreness. It can create some bruising. And if we continue this long enough, the horse is going to become ouchy. The horse can actually become lame at that point in time. And of course, if we pick up the foot after we have noticed the situation, a lot of times we may see a darkened area in the sole of the foot itself where the bruise is actually located there, and your farrier and vet, either one, can come in, and there's some things that they can do to help relieve some of the pressure from a bruise itself. And if we're trying to ride quite a bit during the winter months and bruising is a persistent problem, then there's some things that the farrier can do, and especially if the horse is barefoot, we can go back to pads, we can go back to shoes as well to help protect the sole of the foot. Of course, one of the things that we can do to help improve the situation, if we had started way back, and that would have been to have incorporated a hoof supplement into the diet of the horse.
Absolutely.
And what a hoof supplement is going to do over a period of time is to internally regrow the foot, going to thicken and strengthen the hoof wall itself. But one of the greatest things that it's going to do, it's going to help improve sole thickness. And the more thickness that we have there, the more protection that horse has from that frozen ground or that hard surface then. So, and we just happen to have a product that we make here, been around for many, many years, and that's our Farrier's formula.
Absolutely.
Okay? And another thing that we can mention quickly too, especially if we have a senior horse or a horse that's, say, anywhere from 10, 11, 12 years old, we're at that point where we may be having some joint problems, and that horse needs a little assistance there along with the foot. We do have a combo product called DS Plus Joint. It'll have your Farrier's formula in it for hoof quality, plus it's going to protect the joint of the horse, and that it has some glucosamine, proline, ornithine, and some manganese included as far as the joint side of the product.
And this is currently only available in the United States. And then as far as the Farrier's formula goes, this right here is actually our double strength bag, which is what it's called here in the United States. If you're watching from Europe or England, you may know that as double concentrate.
Right. Same product.
Same product, just different naming.
Right.
And like I said, this one right here currently is only available in the U.S. But the good thing about this one, and going back to a previous question regarding selenium, is, that's overdosing on that is very likely when you're feeding two separate a hoof supplement
Right.
and a joint supplement,
And
and this takes out that risk.
right, and the risk is with sulfur.
Sulfur, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's all right. It's with sulfur, especially if we're feeding a joint supplement that has MSM, which
Absolutely.
is sulfur. Any good hoof supplement is going to have DL-methionine in it, which Ferrous Formula does.
Mhm.
There's sufficient sulfur that comes from the DL-methionine in the Farrier's formula to provide what that horse needs on a daily basis as far as its sulfur requirement. So if we're feeding Farrier's formula in a separate joint supplement that has MSM in it, then we are creating a toxicity problem as far as excessive sulfur within the horse, and that creates a hoof issue in itself.
Absolutely.
Just like excess selenium will do.
Now, I know, of course, we've talked about the overweight horse and how it can have problems with, of course, the joints and the hoofs. Would you recommend feeding the Double Strength Plus joint with the barn bag for those overweight horses that are looking at losing
Absolutely.
weight?
In fact, all these can be fed in combination with each other. They were designed that way without any risk of oversupplementation, yes. Barn bag becomes your feeding program for the horse, along with the forage on that overweight horse itself. And then we can feed the DS plus joint to take care of the hoof and the joint as well.
And going back to the foal, it's really never too early to really start
No.
that hoof supplement regimen either.
No, absolutely not. Like I say, prevention is the key.
Absolutely.
Right. I think at this point we're ready for question number 2.
You know, it has been a while.
It's been a while,
between
yes.
the giveaways.
You're right.
So absolutely, let's do it. Let's do number 2.
Okay.
So this is the second out of 3 of our live giveaways. Again, this is for the U.S. only due to international giveaway laws. I apologize about that. But this is our prize pack for the hat, the T-shirt, the finish, the clay, and the breeder's formula, which of course that is our canine supplement.
Right.
Helps with itchy skin, joints,
Sure.
and of course coat, and even a little bit of mental composure.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so this is for this is question number 2. And again, you've given this one. You've given this one away.
This one has been given away.
Okay, so this is the average horse should consume how much water per day?
That's right.
The average horse should consume how much water per day? You've got 2 minutes to answer that, and if you answer it correctly, you'll be included in our random drawing to win this. And in that time, I believe we've got a few questions here.
Okay.
Of course, we've got a few people in here saying that they develop bruises during the winter. So just confirmation there. Let's see. Let me go back here. We had a question regarding Cushing's.
Okay.
And of course, it looks like our customer service answered the question regarding the product.
Okay.
But if you do go back and watch some of our past live events, we did one on Cushing's. And we do have a product for those Cushing horses.
It's called the Adrenal Formula.
It's actually one of our newest products.
It is.
And
we've gotten some great results from horses that have been, or that are actually consuming the product as we speak. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we're seeing very good results with that, and also seeing really good results from our lamina formula.
Right.
Which talked about. I can, especially here in the fall season, we can see that drive up a little bit.
Sure, and especially the spring of the year as well. So the product that Corbin has just mentioned is our lamina formula. It is a companion product to be fed along with Ferrous formula. And of course, it's for these horses that either have an acute case of laminitis or a ongoing chronic case.
Absolutely.
So,
and we also have past live events on laminitis.
We do.
That you can go back and rewatch.
And when we feed the lamina formula in addition to Ferrous formula to these problematic horses, then the addition of the lamina is going to help maintain the needed blood flow, number one. It's going to help reduce that inflammation that's going to be found within the hoof capsule itself. It's going to help lessen the future event of another bout of laminitis. And then one of the greatest things that it does, in my opinion, when we feed this to a horse over a period of time, it's actually going to improve the internal aspect of that foot in and around the coffin bone, but it's actually going to thicken and strengthen the sole of the foot tremendously.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, Mike, we did have one question here. They would like to know, if you have shoes on now, how soon before winter should you pull shoes?
That's totally up to the horse itself, and I know a lot of individuals will do that. In fact, a lot of individuals will pull the shoes right before they, what I call, retire the horse for the winter months.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't want to forget about the horse during the winter months as well. And even if we pull the shoes of the horse off the horse or from the horse, then that hoof capsule is still going to continue to grow. Now, it's going to grow at a slower rate versus the spring and summer months. But that foot still needs to be trimmed. And the most important part is that foot needs to be kept balanced, because
Absolutely.
if we get out of balance, then that can set us up for certain cracking and chipping, things along that line as well.
And of course, if you are having your horse shod, then those old nail holes are also something that we kind of talked about briefly before, but especially going into this winter, if you're removing those shoes, making sure you can pack in those old nail holes
Right.
with the hoof clay,
Yeah.
just to protect them.
Yeah, and that's a very good point too. In fact, as soon as those shoes are pulled, you got those nail holes in the white line area that's opened up and exposed.
Exactly.
So as soon as your farrier pulls that shoe, I'd want to pack those old nail holes in that white line area with the clay
Absolutely.
to protect that area.
And I know we have a lot of people who actually will put the clay across the white line underneath the shoe.
Right.
But they also will put it in the frog and around the white line, just as a preventative measure from white line disease and thrush.
Right.
And then one last question before we announce the winner: how much oats and oil, if needed, for hard keepers?
As a rule of thumb, when it comes to grain, we're going to feed anywhere from a half to 1% of the body weight of the horse. And if your horse is not on oats, then we want to start a gradual process. We want to introduce the oats slowly to that. And then we're going to, if we're replacing a complete feed, and then whatever amount of the complete feed we were feeding the horse, we want to replace the same amount of oats at that point in time. Okay? What's the max that we can feed at one point in time to a 1,000-pound horse, which is a good question. Typically, it's around 5 pounds. And that's about what the stomach can hold as far as in the horse itself. But about 5 pounds would be our limit per feeding. And it's best to feed multiple meals to the hard keeper through the day than it is once or twice,
That's a good point.
Sure, yeah.
Now, is there any alternatives to oats?
Absolutely. There's sugar beet pulp as well, and especially if that horse has some dental problems, sugar beet pulp can be soaked. It's very dense in calories, so it would be an excellent choice for the hard keeper as well. Copra is another one as well that can be incorporated and fed. As far as oil, you can take there's many different types of oil that's on the market there, but you can take a look at vegetable oil, corn oil, soybean oil, whatever that might be. The basic rule of thumb is with oil, you start out very slowly, you introduce that very slowly, and then you gradually increase. I would not want to exceed on a typical average 1,000-pound horse more than 2 cups of oil per day. Because when you hit that point, reach that point, you could end up with some loose stools. A more comfortable level would be somewhere around a cup daily of this oil.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then real quick, Lisa asked about the hoof clay. Yes, that will help with white line disease. Actually, both of these products will. That hoof clay is just really good to put underneath that shoe. And then if you have any separation of the white line, you can actually put the hoof clay in there to help with that. But actually, both these products are great for white line and for thrush.
And if your horse happens to be barefoot and you got some wall separation, let's take something and clean that separation out.
Good point.
As good as we can first. and then let's pack that void with the clay at that point.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I know we've probably gone over our 2 minutes, so I'm sure everyone's waiting to see who the winner is.
And Will, who is the lucky
Well,
winner?
let's reread it real quick.
Okay.
All right, so question number 2, the average horse should consume how much water per day? And the answer to that was 10 to 12 gallons.
Yep, somewhere in that neighborhood.
And Will, who is our winner?
The winner is Amy Morgan Simpson.
Amy Morgan Simpson, congratulations. You can email us at cservice@lifedatalabs.com. And all we're going to need is your shipping address and your t-shirt size. And then in the subject line, you can put live giveaway winner. So we have one more of these live giveaways, and of course we have our grand prize, and that link has been scrolling down there at the bottom. There's a little green bar scrolling at the bottom of your screen. That link will pop up, and you can enter in the grand prize at any time. And again, these contests are for U.S. shipping addresses only, U.S. residents only. Okay, Mike. Well, I know we, of course, mentioned thrush just a second ago.
In fact, Mr. Will, if you'll pull up slide number 5 for us. And this is a prime example of a thrush problem. And that's just another common problem during the winter months that a lot of horses have to deal with, the horse owner in particular. Of course, there are certain things that the horse owner needs to do on a daily basis, and that is, number one, pick up the foot, clean out the foot, pick out the foot. Of course, the type of bacteria, once again, that creates the problem is what we call anaerobic. So if we allow either side of the frog to become compacted, full of dirt, manure, whatever, then that blocks needed oxygen there, and then that just sets it up. Of course, the hardest part to deal with is if you have a problem there in the central sulcus, right back in the heel area there. That is a tough situation to deal with a lot of times, and we don't want that to get out of hand, okay? And if we have a problem there in that central sulcus back in the heel area, let's make sure, number one, that our foot is properly balanced. Because if it's not, then that causes kind of a scissor motion there that will help aid to that separation itself. So that's one of the first things I would want to be sure that the foot is in balance there. And then if we have a problem in the central part there, the finish could be used to kind of flush that out as well.
Absolutely.
And then after we get that flushed out and cleaned out with, say, the finish itself, let's give that a little time to dry, and then we can actually pack the hoof clay into that at the end of that point as well. We don't want to allow this to get into sensitive tissue, because the horse is not going to appreciate that when we try to clean the area out itself. And of course, as you can see on either side of the frog here in the deep grooves, we see the black there, and that's just simply bacteria buildup. You can see the black, this horse has been shod, the shoes were just pulled off of it. And this is typical around the old nail holes that actually go up in through the hoof wall there in the white line area itself. So before the farrier nails the shoe back on, if that entire area was coated with hoof clay and the shoe nailed on it, then that's going to help keep that area clean.
Absolutely.
So thrush is a common problem during the winter months.
Oh, absolutely. You got the mud and the snow. And...
You got all that to deal with. Now, we hope that you don't live in what we call sub-zero areas. But if you do, then that is not friendly to bacteria and fungi, believe it or not. Okay, it doesn't like to thrive in a situation like that.
I wouldn't think so.
So if you have a horse that's battling thrush and you're in these sub-zero areas, that would be a prime time for you to try to alleviate the problem. because you got Mother Nature that's helping you with the cold temperatures. And then if you'll come up with a good, safe, mild product to use, such as the clay or the finish, hopefully when spring gets here, the problem is gone at that point in time. Okay.
Absolutely, and like you kind of mentioned there, as the horse owners, we're really getting rid of that problem, picking up that foot and cleaning it daily. We know it's cold outside, but that continued maintenance of the hoof is going to really help control that. All right, Michael, we've talked about it. We touched on it a little bit. But what are just all the disadvantages that winter brings when we're talking about the hoof?
Of course, number one, it's rain. A lot of times that rain is frozen precipitation, whether that's ice, whether that's snow. Okay? When it comes to a horse being outside, if it's extremely cold and if it's wet, rainy, and if it's icy, then if the horse gets wet, then the horse loses its insulation at that point in time. Okay, it's going to struggle as well. So we got excess moisture that takes place. And of course, this excess moisture can actually lead to a chronic problem of thrush. We can actually create a new problem of thrush itself. Of course, another thing that winter brings on as well is a lot of these horses are going to be confined to their stalls. So from a horse owner standpoint, we need to do a good job in making sure that our stalls are cleaned on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
They need to be clean, they need to be dry. And that is a situation that a horse needs to be in. It's not wet, but it needs to be dry conditions, especially if we have a thrush problem itself. And with stalls that may be neglected to some extent, and if our bedding becomes saturated with horse urine, we know as the horse stands on this that it literally is going to eat up the bottom of the foot. So if you will use the farrier's finish, it has a product in it called yucca. And the yucca will bind up, it'll tie up the ammonia that's in the urine itself and to protect the foot from that standpoint. So that's just another benefit of the farrier's finish itself.
Yucca helps control the yuck, right?
That's right. And then the other part of winter, when we have the opportunity to turn the horse out into a paddock, we've got mud in most cases there. So that's working against us as well. Of course, another thing that's going to work on the foot of the horse, and in a lot of parts of the U.S. are blessed with this, and it's white stuff, it's snow. Okay?
I know we have a lot of people in Canada too watching. So
We do. In fact, we've already had a pretty good snowstorm, I think, out in the Midwest, I think, last week as well. That's already started. But snow will pose a problem to the foot of the horse as well, and especially if that horse is shod. And would you like to venture what actually takes place or what happens?
I'm assuming that snow is going to pack up into that.
That's right, and it's going to form an ice ball. So can you imagine yourself just walking on ice balls?
That sounds pretty awful.
You know, when that happens there, it can create a tripping problem. It can certainly cause bruising very easily or whatever. So we need to be very mindful of that. We need to keep these, we want to prevent this from happening if we can, okay? And there's several things that we can do that you can get your farrier to do. Number one, there's what we call snowball pads that we can add underneath the shoe itself if that horse is shod. There's also called snowball rim pads as well. Of course, with snowball pads, they cover the entire sole of the foot. With a rim pad, everything is left open there. But it's kind of like an inverted cup or whatever, and it kind of pushes the snow out, keeps the ice balls from forming there. But if you don't do a good job in cleaning the foot as far as mud and manure, then the mud and manure can freeze, and then you can have a snowball or to actually form on that part.
Yes, yellow snow, right?
And it defeats the purpose of the snow pad then.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Mr. Will, if you will pull up slide number 6 for us, please. Okay. Highly important. We want to maintain a regular farrier schedule.
And this photo might seem like it's summer in this photo.
It is
but
summer
that
in
needs
that
to
photo there.
continue through the winter.
That's right. Like we said earlier, the hoof growth may slow down a little bit, but we still need to trim. We still need to keep the foot balanced during the winter months as well. And the good thing about a farrier visit is this. A lot of times that farrier will pick up on a problem in the foot that we may overlook as a horse owner itself. So, if that farrier's looking at that horse every 6 to 8 weeks or whatever, if there's a problem there, 9 times out of 10, the farrier's going to notice, point that out to us or whatever. Okay?
Absolutely.
All right, we're ready for our final question, which is question number 3.
All right, question number 3. Again, these are for those who are watching live in the United States. We're going to ask the question. You have 2 minutes to answer it. We're going to take all the comments and pick a random person who got it correct. And just as a reminder, we're also streaming here on YouTube. So we've got YouTube entering, we got Facebook entering, and so a lot of people have the possibility to win. Okay, so question number 3 for the final live giveaway question. What enters the hoof capsule that creates an abscess?
What is it?
Ooh, this one goes back a little bit.
It does.
What enters the hoof capsule that creates an abscess?
What's the culprit there? What causes it?
Okay, Mike. So since we're going back to abscesses, let's talk a little bit. Let me ask you a little bit about caustic products.
Okay.
Since we're when we're talking about abscesses, white line disease, thrush, these winter environmental conditions. Why do we want to stay away from those?
Okay. Basically, our philosophy here, and it's my personal philosophy as well, that we really don't want to put anything on the foot of the horse that we wouldn't put on ourselves.
Absolutely.
So if we're going to apply a product that we cannot safely apply to our skin ourselves because it's caustic, then I wouldn't put that on the horse itself.
Makes sense.
Because when we do that, if it's caustic, it's actually killing hoof tissue in the process. Okay. This dead tissue in the process will actually block off the needed oxygen that the hoof capsule needs. So we're actually defeating our purpose from that standpoint. Okay. Also, this dead tissue can become a food source for bacteria to come back, to take a hold, and start the problem over again. And a lot of times, horse owners that actually have a thrush problem end up with a cycle. They'll use something that's very caustic. They think it's very strong, and so in their mind they'll use it thinking, well, this is going to wipe my problem out. Well, yes, it wipes your problem out, but then it created these other issues, and then the thrush problem comes back then.
Absolutely.
So it's just a vicious cycle there that we continue to fight.
Just non-ending.
It's a never-ending thing. So just be mindful not to use these caustic products on the foot of the horse. And if you can't use them, well, don't use them on the horse itself.
And one of the best ways to know caustic, like Mike said, if it has that on there, don't put it on your own skin. If it's got those little caution symbols and different things like that, those are good things to avoid. And that's I guess the other thing about good thing about these products, since there is nothing caustic, they can be used as we talked about, as that preventative measure.
That's right.
And to where you end that cycle, because it's just these are being put on, and those bacteria never have a chance to really get hold of that hoof.
That's right.
All right, I see a lot of people entering in the contest here. Let's see. Did we talk about? We had someone ask about packing the hoof. Did we talk about with the hoof clay, you're able to pack it.
Yeah, you can use it underneath a hoof pad, yes.
And of course, we
If
talk
that's
about
a question, yes.
yes. And we talked about, of course, not blocking oxygen. But when you pack with the hoof clay, the clay is actually porous because it's made from natural clay. So you're actually not going to block that oxygen by applying this. And so it's a really great use for, and we actually recommend that, often. Again,
Sure.
in the frog, on the wet line, those hoof cracks, that's perfect packing material. And because you definitely don't want to pack it with something that would block oxygen.
Right.
So, all right, I believe we've reached our 2 minutes.
Do we have a winner?
We do.
And the question again,
All right,
Corbin,
so
was?
what enters the hoof capsule that creates an abscess? And again, that is bacteria and fungi, which I guess we were kind of just giving away that answer as we talked about abscesses and stuff. All right, Will, who's our winner?
The winner is Shane Morton.
Shane Morton. Congratulations, Shane. You're going to email cservice@lifedatalabs.com. Again, that is cservice@lifedatalabs.com. In the subject line, just put live giveaway winner. We'll need your t-shirt size and your shipping address. And again, that is the hoof clay, the finish, the t-shirt, hat, and the breeder's formula. If you weren't able to win one of the lives, we're sorry, but we still have our grand prize giveaway.
Sure.
That's coming up. We'll talk about that here towards the end. That link is still going down there at the bottom. It's the lifedata.live/events. You go there. We have the link for the grand prize giveaway. We have a link for you to register for the next event, along with a bunch of other useful resources that you guys might find helpful. So definitely check out that link. And I guess at the end of the presentation.
That's right. And our time is quickly running out.
Yes, we're getting.
And I actually have 5 more points to cover, and there's no way that I can cover all those here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight some of these that we need to be mindful of as far as preparing our horses for the winter months.
Okay.
One other thing that we need to be mindful of is our vaccination program. Okay. Especially the older horses, or a horse that has, say, Cushing's disease or whatever. The immune system of the older horse a lot of times may not be up to par, and we know that the Cushing's horse, there's an immune problem as well. So we need to make sure that our vaccinations are in place, and especially in advance of winter getting here. Of course, one of those vaccinations would be for, respiratory problems, influenza, EIV, the herpes virus, West Nile, and all that. So bottom line, get with your vet, talk to your vet, see what your vet recommends, for that older horse, or for that horse that has some type of compromised immune system as well. Very important during the winter months. I'll mention this one quickly. Dental care, highly important. In fact, a lot of times with our older horses or senior horses, they've got dental issues. We need to have those teeth examined at least 2 times per year. And one of the times that we certainly want to include is late fall. We want to make sure that we don't have any teeth problem with that older senior horse going into the winter months, because the digestion process starts in the mouth of the horse with that chewing. So the horse has to have some good teeth in order to do that, okay? So be mindful of a dental problem or whatever. And if we have a dental problem and we don't address that dental problem, then that horse is very subject to a choke, number 1, and colic, number 2. And we don't want to have to deal with either one of those at all.
Absolutely.
Moving on rather quickly, another thing that the horse may need during the winter months, depending on your location, is going to be some form of shelter. And basically, if a horse just has something to block the wind when that's taking place, that's better than nothing. And something that's very simple, rolled hay, provides a windbreak. Plywood up against a fence row provides a windbreak. Run-in shed is another great thing to provide the horse. And then if you're fortunate enough to have a nice barn, that would be one of the better things to have. But with an enclosed barn like that, the thing that we need to be very mindful of and careful of is ventilation. Because if we don't have good, proper ventilation for the horse, then we can create some respiratory problems in the horse itself. Moving quickly, blanketing, that's another question too. Does a horse need to be blanketed? And there's several things to consider. If we have a senior horse, if the wind chill is say 5 or below, or the temperature is actually 5 or below, then yes, that horse would benefit from a blanket at that point in time. If we have freezing rain, if we have ice, then yes, the horse would benefit at that point in time. If the horse has been body clipped, then yes, that horse needs to be blanketed. If the horse has not had sufficient time to acclimate itself, say if it was moved from the southeast to the northeast and we didn't have time for the horse to acclimate, then yes, the horse would benefit from a blanket itself. And another very important thing, if we have a horse that has a body condition score of 3 or less, that horse needs to be blanketed under extreme cold conditions as well, okay? When do we start blanketing? Not before December the 22nd, because up to that point in time, the horse is still developing its winter coat. Believe it or not, December the 23rd, it does the reverse. And at that point, it's starting to develop its summer coat at that point in time. So December the 22nd is our target date there. One other thing, I know that we're going long right now, would be parasite control. And the point that I want to give you here, the best way to determine what you need to use, when you need to use it as a wormer, is through fecal egg counts. Get your vet to do that. Do a fecal egg count. You'll know if you have a problem, you'll know what to use to treat the problem as well. One of the things that you may want to keep in mind too, maybe right after the first frost, we might want to worm at that point in time if we need to, and then it helps us get through the winter months then. So I know I covered these rather quickly. There's a lot more that I could have said. Our time is completely gone, Corbin.
Absolutely.
And we still have the grand prize to talk about.
And if we didn't answer your question, feel free to contact us. Actually, when you go to that lifedata.live/events, it's actually going to take you to our website with those links that we talked about before, the giveaway link, the registration link for the next live event. But if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a contact form. So if you don't want to email us, you can just fill out that contact form. And we would be happy to answer any of those questions. You can message us here on Facebook. You can pick up the phone and call us. You know, we're here. Mike's here. Dr. Gravely's here. We can answer those questions and help you out. But as Mike said, we do have our grand prize giveaway, and so we're actually going to be giving away a bag of joint, a barn bag, a clay, and a finish.
Wow, we're going to give all that away this time.
Yes, this is, you know, as we kind of mentioned about, especially for those older horses.
Sure.
You know, this is the optimal thing to prepare them for winter. You've got the nutrition side of it, and then you have the environmental side. Right. So we're going to be giving away this package, actually to 3 people. So you can go to that link, lifedata.live/events. You'll find that link to the contest there. You can, of course, register for that. And there's also a few things that you can do in the contest to increase your chances to win. So signing up for our newsletter, that'll give you some extra entries. Of course, entering in our secret code. Almost forgot about the secret code.
And what is the
secret code? Is Jack Frost.
Jack Frost, okay.
Jack Frost is the secret code. Will give you a tremendous amount. That's kind of our thank you for watching us live and watching the videos. Of course, you get a better chance than someone else who happened to find it. You can share the contest with your friends. That will give you extra entries. If you share it to a friend and then they enter in the contest, that'll boost your chances of winning. There's a couple links to our website where if you go to those links, that'll increase your chances to win. Of course, this is for the U.S. only. Again, we apologize for that with those international giveaway laws. We're just unable to stretch that past the United States. But you go there and fill that out. And if you have any questions about it, again, just let us know. And we're going to announce the winner next Tuesday, 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock in the afternoon.
So join us next week, Tuesday at 2 o'clock, and we will announce the winners live and also take on any other questions that may happen that may come up during that time. Our next live event is scheduled.
November the 5th.
It's November 5th at 2 o'clock. And we're going to have Will here drop there it is, environmental factors that affect the hoof. So, of course, especially in regions like the United States where we have wet, we've got dry, we've got cold, we've got hot, different environments. And what are those factors that are going to affect the hoof? What are you going to battle? What are you going to see? And how do we protect from that? So that's going to be really a tremendously valuable live event. So really encourage you guys to come to that, and let Mike here, of course, will give his presentation and discuss about that, and we'll answer questions and have giveaways and have another real good time. And then again, in November, of course, after this event, I think it's almost exactly a week after.
I think
is
you're correct.
Equine Affair.
That's right. We'll be in Massachusetts.
Me and Mike will both be at Equine Affair. And we're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff during that. Again, daily giveaways. We'll be going live from the booth. And of course, we'll have taste samples and brochures and educational things to give out. So make sure to come by and see us. Let us know you watch the live events, that you see us on Facebook, and we'll give you a t-shirt.
That's right.
Let's close it out. Again, if we didn't answer any of those questions, just contact us. We'll be happy to help. But we hope everybody has a wonderful weekend.
And we certainly thank you for joining us today. We hope you join us November the 5th.
Yep.
We hope to see a lot of you at Equine Affair.
Absolutely. Come see us at Equine Affair.
Yeah. And join us Tuesday, too, as Corbin said.
Join us Tuesday at 2 to see if you're one of the lucky winners.
Right.
So thank you, everybody.